Aw, shit. Here we go again.
Welcome to the Sloppy Book Club podcast. I'm Jenny.
And I'm Celese. And we are on season 2, episode 12. On this week's episode, we're going to do a wine tasting. And Jenny has a mixed drink. Yep. We're going to play a game. And we're going to review 2 books. The first book being, or whichever order we go in. But one of the books is a YA fantasy, When Oceans Rise by Robin Alvarez. Right?
Yep.
Did I say that right?
You got it.
But for a minute, I'm like, I'm reading it, but like it's not processing. Anyway, the second book will be a women's fiction, In 5 Years by Rebecca Shirley. And if you listen to episode 11, these were 2 books that we kind of were like, we kind of want to do an episode on. And here we go.
Yes. Do you want me to go first with my drink?
Sure.
All right. So I forgot to ask Mike what is actually in this drink.
Okay.
But he wanted to make me like a themed drink. And because my book is like a Little Mermaid retelling, he made me a drink called Ocean Water.
Oh my God, that looks so cute.
And there's fish inside, the little like
Swedish fish.
Yeah, those. I already tasted it. It's really freaking good.
It looks good.
It's so delicious.
I'm cute.
But all the fish fell. So cheers.
Cheers.
That's so good.
Yeah, you said it was. And I'm jealous. All right. So as you heard last week, or our last episode rather, my husband doesn't want to buy any of the big bottles anymore. So now I have this canned wine. I've never had wine in a can, but I'm gonna give it a go.
Same.
It's called House of Wine. Everyone's welcome in our house. And this is their special collection one because of
nice
bag. And if you don't know, we are at LGBT. Q plus safe haven.
Yes,
I do that right?
LGBTQ plus.
Okay. I didn't say that.
You definitely switched a couple letters, but we'll move on from that. But we are a safe space.
We are.
Yes.
So yes, this is their special one. It says 2 cans of these makes 1 full wine bottle.
Really?
Yeah. 2 cans equals 1 bottle.
Huh. Okay.
I'm scared. How much alcohol is in here then?
You'll be drinking a half a bottle right there.
12?
Oh yeah. Yep.
I'm scared.
You're good. I hope it's good. Hope you like it.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah.
It says carbonated wine, bright, fruity, and flavorful, gluten-free.
Okay.
I wouldn't say really fruity, but it's definitely carbonated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't say that I've ever had wine in a can.
I mean, they used to do wine in a box. Why not a can?
Yeah. I've had wine in a box.
Oh, each can donates $2 to the Human Rights Campaign.
Nice.
And this is a rosé.
Good job.
Not bad. All right. Let's get to this game because I'm super nervous.
Okay. So I found this Never Have I Ever like questionnaire thing, and it's all book related. And there's a bunch here. I'm only going to do like 10. If you have done it, just take a sip of your drink.
So if I've done it, I drink. Yep. If I didn't do it,
then don't drink.
Then don't drink. But what if I don't want you to know if I did or didn't? So do I just not drink?
I think you need to answer yes or no.
Okay.
You'll be fine. They're not like spicy or anything. They're just regular book related.
Oh, okay. Book related. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, book related.
Okay.
So dropped a book on your face while reading.
Plenty of times.
Never a book, but the Kindle, yes.
I've done a book, a Kindle, a phone.
Let's see. Hid a book that you were reading. Have you ever hid a book?
When I was younger, yes.
I never have.
Mm-hmm.
Was it a spicy book?
Of course. I was reading things I shouldn't have at a very young age.
Jesus. Lied about what you're reading.
Oh, yeah.
I have. Definitely.
Especially when it's one of my parents. Oh, what are you reading? Oh, nothing.
I'm like at work and stuff. Some random person will ask me, oh, nothing. Just boring stuff. All right. Read 50 Shades of Grey more than once.
I did.
Did you really?
Yes.
I thought they were like really badly written.
I love them. I love
Okay.
Now, what is it? No, it's his point of view.
Mm-hmm.
That book, that one recently came out, like I want to say a year or two ago, maybe a little bit longer than that. That I would never read it again.
Okay.
It was not my cup of tea.
Okay.
I feel like it's very hard to get the male perspective sometimes in certain like spicy scenes.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I don't know, like that wouldn't really happen, or he wouldn't really say that in his mind. Like certain things that she said that, he said, in his point of view, I was just like,
Yeah.
I
So
think,
she's saying it from like a female's point of view, like her
yeah,
own point of view. That's
I
weird.
don't know. It was weird.
Okay. All right.
But I have read 50 Shades a couple times.
I have never read it.
That's
All
crazy.
right. So DNF the book. Yes.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that is so good.
And I really try not to.
Same here.
Like I really, really try to push through, but there's some books I just can't do it.
Just can't do it. Why waste your time?
That one book that we read together, but we will never talk about because it was so crazy. Yeah. I wanted to DNF that book so bad. It was so hard.
We pushed through though. We pushed through it.
Never again. Her book is on all over TikTok.
So I saw something. Was it the one where it was like people were saying it's not erotica, it's horror?
Yeah, they were trying to say it's a dark romance. Like they didn't understand.
Oh, that's what it was. Yes,
a dark romance was, and it was one of her books.
Because all her books are labeled as dark romance. They're erotica and dark romance. Erotica, yes, but along with like that thriller, horror, whatever genre you want to call it.
That's just crazy.
Yeah.
That's like if you
I know. I think about that book every now and then.
I do too, because I want to know what happened.
I know. I remember we were like, damn, but what's gonna happen after that? I don't even know if she's written more.
But I can't. And that book that she was talking about on TikTok with the dark romance, it has something to do with taking the eyeball out and putting it in the eyeball socket. No, I'm done.
Oh my God. So she really has a thing for taking body parts out and then putting them back in places.
She's pushing boundaries, okay?
Because ours was the teeth, right? Like taking other people's teeth and okay.
I can't.
All right.
It scares me. Jump scare.
Oh my God. I feel like I want to pick up something else of hers just to see. Like I'm curious, like watching a car accident and you're just like you want to see, but you don't really want to see. Like that.
Yeah.
All right.
Sorry if no one knows what we're talking about, but yeah.
Should we say the name at least?
What is her name?
The author, Yolanda Olson.
Oh, you remembered.
Oh yeah, I remember. I will never forget, ever. But I do like I feel like I want to maybe pick something else up, but I'm scared to. I really am.
I'm scared because, like I said, that was hard to read. if you could read that, more power to you. But I was scared.
I remember getting dizzy at one point.
Oh my God.
All right.
Okay.
Moving on. Okay. Have you ever dreamed of a book boyfriend? I don't think I have.
Dreamed?
Like, had a dream of a book boyfriend?
I don't think so.
No? Okay. Let's see. Complained about a book turned movie.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. We really liked, which one's the one that we saw this summer?
Where the Crawdads Sing.
Yeah, that. But we did complain about how we lost some emotions.
Rushed. Yeah. I felt like it was rushed. Especially like the court scenes and stuff.
Yeah. All right. This one's an easy one.
Which I wanted to ask you about. You know how they're doing, what is it? Daisy Jones and the Six. Have you read that yet? It's being turned into like a series. But I feel like you read, what is it? The Seven Husbands of Hugo or something. You never read that one?
The seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo.
Yeah. No. You haven't read that one?
No.
I thought you did.
Oh.
Well, I have it. I'm reading it, on and off. But I'm like, maybe Jenny's read it. But I know that
I've seen it everywhere, but no.
Yeah, that particular book is being made into a mini series or a series or something. So I was just like, let me ask Jenny. But
nope, never. Okay. All right. Made someone read your favorite book.
Made someone? I can't make anyone do anything.
Are you kidding me? It was constant for like a month or two after we read Shadow and Bone. I think you would like Third and Glass. Just read it.
I mean,
so, drink up. Yes. I'm not mad about it. But still. All right. Fangirled over an author.
Of course. I did this summer.
Yep. All right. Damn. We'll do like two more.
Okay.
Waited up for a book to hit your Kindle.
Yep. Sure did. And I read it that whole night into the next day.
Yep. I technically didn't wait up, but I was at work waiting.
No, watching. I waited. Waited. I kept refreshing.
All right, last one. Hold out your Kindle at a party.
Not my Kindle, but my Kindle app on my phone.
That's the same thing.
No, I feel like when you pull out your Kindles, your like Kindle like thing.
But it's the same thing. You're pulling out your Kindle app, you're reading. I think that's the premise of the
I've done it a couple times, even with our friends.
I know. I've seen you pull out your phone to read. Oh my God.
Hey, downtime. Everybody's talking. Let me read a couple of real fast.
Let me just read. That's funny. All right. I think that's it.
Okay. We're good. Well, if these were shots, I'd be drunk.
Yes, you would be.
No, but I like that. We're gonna have to see some of those other ones at some.
Yeah, there's a lot in there, but yeah,
I believe it. All right, let's get into some of these book reviews. Would you like to go first or me?
Yeah, I can go. Okay. All right, so I'm talking about When Oceans Rise by Robin Alvarez. And before I start, I know I said before that this book is very pretty, and it is. I absolutely loved it. Everything about it, the story, how it was like a story of growth and learning about yourself. But there are trigger warnings. Okay. There's a lot of gaslighting in this book. There's mental, physical, and emotional abuse. So it's very tough. And it's a young adult. So this girl's like 17, 18, like around that age. So she's very young. So just so you're aware, and this will be a little spoilery, but I'm going to stop at some point because I don't want to ruin the whole thing. This book doesn't come out until May. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, so I can't be too spoilery. I don't really want to be too spoilery.
Gotcha.
So it is a young adult fantasy. It's Little Mermaid retelling, but there are no mermaids. It's more of the concept. Like there's a sea witch, there's like a bartering of your voice kind of thing. So it starts off with Malaya, who's the FMC, and she is a half Filipino, half Irish teenager. And she's raised in America, and she has like she lives with her mom and dad, but her mom is very like want to teach you our culture. She's very strict. She's constantly telling her stories about mythological creatures from the Filipino culture. And you know how like when we're young and our parents are like, oh, if you don't go to bed on time, the cuckoo is going to get you.
Yeah,
it's kind of like that. It's exactly like that, except their cuckoo is in a swan. So her mom is constantly talking to her about this thing. So Malaya, all she wants is her freedom. She doesn't want to be, stuck at home. She wants to be let free. And her mom is very, very strict with her. So this causes her to kind of like rebel a little bit. So there is this like curse that her mom tells her about. And it's a curse about the females in their family are meant to fall in love with these like sweet, gorgeous men, but eventually they become very deceptive. So they're always cursed to like have like an awful relationship type thing. Of course, she doesn't believe her mom because she's a teenager and her mom's her mom, So one day there's this party at her family's house and her aunt, she reads palms. So she decides to read her palm and she's like, your true love is coming. He's going to come out of nowhere. He's going to make you believe in magic and he won't be wearing a shirt. That's how you know who it is.
Okay.
Of course, that day she goes to the beach with all her friends. They're playing a game. They're playing spin the bottle. She ends up kissing this boy. And of course, he has no shirt on. So she's like, I found him, even though she didn't believe.
At the beach.
I know. That's the first thing I thought. I'm like, girl, you're at a beach. This just happened today.
Right.
But because it was like out of nowhere, he didn't have a shirt on. She wants to be like free and do her own thing. So she's like, maybe this is it.
Right.
So she ends up dating him. His name is Ian. And everything's going great. Months go by, whatever. Everything's fine. And she's like blindly in love. So, like when you're watching your friend in a relationship, you see what they don't see. Right. You see this dick of a boyfriend who's doing all these little things that you're like, I don't know about you, but she doesn't see it. This is kind of what's happening. So you're like, as a reader, you're watching it as like her friend because you're like, oh my God, stop, pay attention.
I like that.
Yeah. So basically, he is super, super shady. He sneaks around. He ends up cheating on her. Of course, she loses her virginity to him. So she's like stuck on him, that kind of relationship. So eventually her mom sends her away to go visit her aunt. And she's like, you're only doing this because you want me away from Ian. He responds to her like he's not answering her phone calls, whatever. But when he finally does, he's very like, you can start seeing the gaslighting, like, oh, if I could take you away, I would, because nobody else is going to take care of you, like that kind of thing, like making her really depend on him. So her aunt eventually does another party and reads her palm again. And she's like, okay, this is bullshit because the last time you did this, I ended up with Ian, who is treating me a certain way. He cheated on me, so I don't believe you. And her aunt is like, well, he's not the boy that I was telling you about. And she's like, what do you mean? She was like, that wasn't him. Just because you met him right after I said it doesn't mean it's him. So eventually they start to talking and she's like, well, all you need is a reset of meeting Ian. And she's like, well, how do I do that? She said, you have to go to the beach. And she tells her this like crazy story where she has to go underwater, hold her breath, and not come out until this sea witch comes to you. she doesn't believe it, but eventually she ends up at the beach, not purposely, ends up meeting the sea witch. So then she asks her for help, and she basically barters her voice in order to have a reset of meeting Ian. So in order for her to do this reset, she's going to take her voice completely. So she agrees to it. What Malaya doesn't realize is that she's not doing a reset of her life. She's throwing her into this alternate timeline of her life. The most interesting part of this entire story was that the alternate timeline, because she completely like takes her away from her world, puts her in a different world, but it's her world. Yeah, so everyone she knows is not everyone she knows, but it's their faces. It's just she's in a different place with a different Malaya, like the FMC. Like she was just put somewhere else in a different timeline. Yes, I don't want to continue on to like spoil what happens after that, because it gets so freaking interesting how all of this works out. And basically like the emotions and all the decisions that she starts to realize what's going on and how her life would have been different. I don't want to spoil any of that because it's so freaking good.
It sounds really good.
It really is. It's super emotional. Like I wanted to cry sometimes, but then sometimes I was like happy for her. And like it reads like you're her friend. Like you just want to be there for her and just like pull her out of this situation that she's in. And you can't, and it's so frustrating, but it's so freaking good. Her friends, the boys she meets, her sister, like her relationship with this person in this alternate like timeline, and how she's just like, oh my God, what if I would have done this differently? What would have happened to me then? Kind of, oh my, it's so like, I love it so much. It's so good. It's very triggering.
It sounds
Some
really
moments
good.
are the gaslighting moments were very like, but I enjoyed it a ton. It was so good.
It sounds really, really good.
Yeah. I want everyone to read it so bad. Because I really really like that. It's that kind of book that you were like, I wish I would have read it when I was younger and knew what that was, kind of thing. But it was really good.
It reminds me about how like there's that trend where it's like if you could reread a book for the first time over, I feel like that would be it. Because you know how like certain books, that twist or that unexpected kind of like plot kind of thing kind of throws you off, and you're like, wait, what? And you can't get that over again. That like, wait, what? Like you can't get that over. So it sounds like one of those kinds of books where it's like once you read it, like
I agree.
Oh, I gotta pick that up.
You definitely should.
And you said it really comes out when?
May.
Yeah. The same as Meet Me at the Lake. She's the one that did that book we read over the summer that we really liked.
Every Summer After?
Yes. I can't wait. That's a book I can't wait for May to happen.
That's awesome. I didn't know that.
All right. Are you ready?
Yes. Ready.
So In 5 Years by Rebecca Surley, as I said before, it had the main character, Danny, and this is like a first person kind of book. So Danny kind of lives, I don't want to say like a perfect life. She just lives a very scheduled, she knows what she wants and she has a plan for it. So, on this particular, when we meet her, it's the day she's going into a job or getting ready for a job interview for this law firm that she's worked her whole life to getting to. Like everything she's done in her life led her to this moment for this job interview. Like this is her top choice. Like this is what she wants with her life. and she's living with her boyfriend, and they've been together for a couple years, and she knows this is the person that she wants to marry, and she knows on this particular day that not only is she going for her job interview and she knows she's going to get the job, but she also knows that David, her boyfriend, is going to propose to her, just because the way he's acting, and also because of the place that he chose for the proposal. It's like this really nice restaurant, and she's like, this is the day. Like, why else would we go to this restaurant? It's not just to, you know, congratulate me for this interview or whatever. So she goes to the interview, and the interviewer asks her, like the associate or partner or whatever, he's like, you know, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And she's like, well, I'm gonna be up for partner within this company. I'm gonna be married to my boyfriend David, and we're gonna be living in, I forget what part of New York, this particular like neighborhood that they both agreed to, that like as soon as they get married, they're gonna find their dream apartment or house in this one particular area in New York, and that's where they're gonna live. So she has like I said, a plan. So
that's like very plan.
Yeah, she like they, and her boyfriend agrees with her because he's kind of similar to her.
Yeah.
Also a lawyer, but not like the type of lawyer she is when big companies merge with another big company, they're the one that does all the legal like paperwork for it, those like contracts and stuff, and overlooking it. That's her job. And her boyfriend, he does law too, but I forget what in particular. It's not as like hardcore or as stressful. It's more lenient, like, so like when they start a family and things, it's not going to be as hard. So she goes for the job interview. She knows she has the job. She goes to dinner with David. He proposes to her like he said he would. And so they celebrate. They get back to the apartment. She falls asleep. And then she's kind of like jolted awake. And she realizes it, like she doesn't really know where she's at, because the apartment she's in isn't an apartment that she's ever seen before. And as she's looking around in the room, she's noticing like all her stuff is there, and she's just like, where am I, kind of thing. And then the TV happens to be on, and the news anchor says, oh, it's going to be a snowstorm, and it's December, I forget what particular date, 2000, and I believe 25. And she's like, wait, how has it been 5 years, kind of
Could
thing?
you imagine the mind fuck?
Yeah. So she's like, what the fuck is going on? So then she happens to look down at her hand, and there's a ring on her finger, but it's not the ring that David, you know, gave her. And she's just like she's like freaking out. She's like, what the fuck is happening? And then a man walks in, and she's like, who are you, kind of thing. And but even though she doesn't know who this person is, she knows like there's a deep connection between the two. And so he's like, oh, are you hungry? And she's like, no, but then like her stomach tells otherwise. And so he was like, I'll make pasta. And she's like, where am I? And he's like, you're funny, or something like that. And then she's like, am I still a lawyer? And he's like, of course you are. Like, he's confused by her. So she's like, I need to change, because she's like in this red dress, and she's just like, what? Like, I don't understand what's going on. So she goes and she finds her clothes, and she changes into like sweats. And then while she's, you know, changing, she sees his pants or whatever, or his jacket, and she finds his wallet, and she finds out that his name is Aaron Gregory. And so now she knows his name. They eat, they talk a little bit, and then he leads her to the bedroom or whatever. And it ends with her falling asleep with him, but she knows that more was coming after that. And then she's jolted awake again, and she's back in her apartment with David. And she's just like, she knows that it wasn't a dream. She knows that it was real. Like, this was really her life in 5 years. And she's just like, how did I get there? Like, what happened to David? Like, she's so shook up by this that she goes to therapy. And her therapist, I forget what she tells her. I think she tells her like, oh, it might just be like stress induced, sometimes when we're super stressed about, what we want in life, we kind of make up these like scenarios or these things within us or whatever. So she was like, maybe that's what the case is. So time passes. She's like, it's like 4 years have passed, or 4.5 years, and she got the job. Her and David moved into that particular neighborhood like she said they would. The only difference is they never got married. They're still engaged. So they just never found like the perfect date for it. And something has always come up where they would have to like reschedule or put it in the back burner, like whether it was like career or family or whatever. So she's like, one day they will get married, but they just haven't picked that date. Now we meet her best friend Bella, and her best friend is the complete opposite of her. She's like carefree, lives, she'll get up and leave and go to Paris. She's very well off. Her parents are really well off. She's never committed to anything before. She's had tons of boyfriends or whatever. So Bella is like, hey, I think I met the one. You and David should come to lunch so you guys can meet him or whatever. So, Danny is just like, whatever. She always feels like she's met the one, but she goes to the lunch anyway. And the man
it's not him. It's him. Oh my God, that sucks so bad.
So
wow.
So she introduces the boyfriend. She's like, this is Greg. But as we know him, the first time we met him, his nickname is Aaron Gregory.
Yeah.
But Bella calls him Greg. So she introduces him. This is Greg or whatever. And Danny kind of like is shitting bricks. Like, she's just like, she feels sick. She's like, no, this can't be. And I forgot to mention, this is going to be full of spoilers.
I mean, I hope people are used to it because we spoil everything.
Anymore, I say stop. So anyway, she's sick. She's like, oh, I'm not feeling well. I have to go. So she kind of abruptly leaves, and her boyfriend David is like, oh yeah, she's been, complaining about herself, like is trying to cover for her. And Bella's like, no, you don't like him. You need to give him a chance, kind of thing. And like, even Greg, he's like, I really want you to give me a chance or whatever. I really like Bella, whatever. And she's just like, I can't be around, like in her mind, she's like, I just can't be around him. Like, oh my God, like this is going to be terrible. So, Bella's in a serious relationship. She introduces him, and then she goes back to her loft, and she's in her apartment, and she's freaking out, and she's like, I'm gonna go for a run. Even though she hasn't ran in like years, this was something she used to do. She was like, I'm gonna go for a run. So she goes for a run, and she stops by like a boardwalk kind of thing. And who does she run into? She runs into Greg again. And he's like, Danny, and she like turns around, she's like, fuck. Like, hey, I know you're Bella's best friend, and Bella, thinks very highly of you. I really hope, we could be friends or whatever. I really want, this to work. And he was like, oh, I'm about to go view an apartment for Bella. Do you want to come with me? And so Danny goes, and, because she wants to go in good faith and, you know, be a friend for her best friend. So she goes to see the apartment, and immediately she knows it's the apartment that was in her
Oh my
premonition case.
God.
So she's like, fuck. So she, you know, Greg calls Bella on the phone, and Bella, he's like, oh, I ran into Danny and she's here with me. And so she's like, oh, put her on the phone. So Bella's like, hey, do you love the apartment? Isn't it great? And Danny's like trying to like steer her away from getting it, because if things keep happening the way it is, then that means, you know, her future is going to be true, like what she saw. So she's thinking like if certain things don't happen, then that future isn't going to happen, because she's like, in her mind, she's like, how am I going to betray my friend like that? There's like no way. So she tries to steer her away from it. She was like, oh, it's nice, but, you know, it needs a lot of work, and, you know, you'll be spending so much time. And she was like, and you both, we both know, like, you don't really finish anything. Like, this would be like a huge task for you. And she was just like, she was kind of bummed by it or whatever. And then we don't really hear anything about the apartment until later on again. So time passes, and Danny now feels like her and David have to get married. She's like, we have to get married, you know, and David is just like, what's bringing this on? She was like, you know, we've waited too long, and if we wait any longer, it's never gonna happen, so we should just do it. And he was like, okay, but let's plan it. We can't just do it overnight. And she was like, why not? And he was just like, your family has been waiting, my family has been waiting, like. And he's like, this doesn't even sound like you. Like, no, we're not going to do it that way. She was like, okay. So they kind of like set this random date or whatever. And so they're trying to plan for a wedding. Bella's still dating Greg. And so over the summer, they usually as friends go to like this beach house kind of thing. So they all go. And while they're at the beach house, you know, Danny's trying to be a good friend and, you know, hang out with Greg and everything, even though she's like still standoffish. So then one day, while they're at the house, Danny wakes up early. She went for a run. She's about to like put coffee on or something, and Bella comes downstairs. She's like, what are you doing up? You're never up this early. And she was like, oh, I haven't really been feeling well. And she was like, what do you mean? She was like, yeah, you know, listing like kind of like pregnancy symptoms. And she's like, wait, we should go get a test. So they go and get a test, and it comes out positive that Bella's pregnant. So now, you know, Danny's like, oh my God. Yes. So she's like, don't tell anyone, you know, I want to wait for my doctor's appointment or whatever. So they plan for when they get back for Bella to go to the doctors. She winds up telling Greg that she's pregnant. He's super happy about it. At first she was like super scared, like, you know, we haven't been dating that long, and for me to be pregnant, like she thought he would just like up and leave kind of thing. Like, no, like I'm super excited, you know, I want to be a dad or whatever. So
this
Bella
is stressful.
It gets even more stressful.
It's stressful.
So I know people are going to think this is like a whimsical romance. Okay, it's not. And I'm going to warn you now. This is not like what you think it is. So Bella goes to her doctor's appointment, and Greg calls Danny, and he's like, she needs you. There's no baby. So she automatically thinks that Bella lost the baby. She had a miscarriage. So she heads over to her best friend's house right away. She's curled up in the bed. She climbs into bed with her. She's like, I'm so sorry to hear about the baby. you'll get through this. She was like, no, there never was a baby. She was like, what do you mean? You had a positive test. She was like, the doctors think I have ovarian cancer.
Dang.
Yes. And so ovarian cancer, I guess, can mimic pregnancy symptoms, but they're not officially sure. But they suspect that's what it is. So Danny is like, we're gonna get the best doctors, like, I want a second opinion. So Bella's parents were parents that enjoyed the idea of having a kid because everyone around them were having kids. Like I said, they were really rich and really well off. So her dad, has connections. So Danny is the one that calls Bella's dad and is like, hey, this is what the doctors are saying. I need the top care here in New York for Bella to go to. So they see the oncologist, right?
Yeah.
They see the oncologist and he's running tests and he's like, I think what, those doctors were saying could be true. I want us to run more tests to be, to confirm. But deep down he knew it was. And Danny, seeing the oncologist, the way he was like describing certain things, he knew it was bad, but was trying to like not give them that bad news right off without having all the tests that needed to be done. So they do the test, they confirm that it is stage 3 and that basically like she's never gonna be able to have children of her own and that they're gonna have to do like a full like surgery for her. And so they plan to do it. I guess like the odds were like 50-50. And, Danny knows that that's not really good odds. Either you're going to live, or, the ovarian cancer is going to take her life kind of thing. So Danny and Aaron go for like a walk and Aaron promises that, he's not going to leave. He's going to be there for Bella. He loves her. So Bella winds up getting the surgery. It goes well. Aaron and Danny are taking care of Bella. Bella's family hires like an in-house nurse to be there for her. Because like I said, like her parents didn't know how to be parents. So the only thing they knew was like throw money and, to help her as best they could. So they hired the nurse or whatever. So, in the same token, like Danny's job is now taking like a back seat and she's scared she's going to lose this job. So she kind of has to explain what's going on to her boss, and her boss is like, he would have never known because her work has still been up to par. And like, he wants her around because he can see her becoming partner one day, like she said she would. So he wants her to take on like this case. So she winds up having to go to like California to help out. And in the same time, before she had left, Bella has been doing a lot of chemo and not really doing well. But Danny has been around, but she's kind of been super controlling. So Bella and her got into like an argument during one of her appointments, and Bella was like, I don't want you here anymore. This is super stressful. You're super controlling kind of thing. But I felt like it was Bella's way of her friend not seeing her.
So she was pushing her away.
Yeah. So they have a fight. Danny goes to California. She cries. Before that, she cries to Aaron about it. And that, he tells her just, give her time. She's going to forgive you. She's just going through a lot right now. Don't let it bother you kind of thing. So she goes to California. She does like a meet and greet with this company that's thinking about merging or selling something. And so she's there. but at the whole time she's like, I shouldn't be here. Like, I want to be with my friend or whatever. So she feels guilty about it. She winds up going back to New York. She's still planning her wedding. She picks a random dress. Like, her heart is not in it. Like, she's just getting married to get married, just so like that future with Greg doesn't happen. Greg Aaron. I call him Aaron Greg because they both flip-flop as to what his name is. Bella calls him Greg and Danny calls him Aaron. So she's flip-flopping between it, and then I'm trying to see what happens next. She picks her wedding dress, even though it's like a random fucking dress. Like, she doesn't even think it looks appropriate on her. Like, it's just terrible. I'm like, girl, just don't get me
just give it up already.
Right. So Bella and her reconnect, and they find out through her new test results that the chemo didn't get rid of the cancer. And Bella tells Danny like she doesn't want to do chemo anymore. She doesn't want to fight it anymore. And so the day, I guess, she found out her test results, Aaron kind of like proposed to her. And so now they're engaged. And like, basically, she just wants to live, you know, as much as she can, kind of thing. Yeah. So they get engaged. And when she tells Danny about her being engaged, she tells Danny, I want you to experience what I'm experiencing. Like, I want you to experience a deep love. And she's like, you don't have that right now. What you have is a like love of convenience, and there's no fire behind it. There's no passion behind it. And she's like, I want you, you know, to feel that one day. She's like, girl, I'm about to get married to David. What are you talking about? I love him. She was like, you love him, but you're not in love with him. And so Danny goes to, so she's dying. I'm trying to remember if she breaks up with David before. Trying to remember. Let me see. So yeah, so she wants her to experience a deep love. She calls David, basically telling him that she loves him, but they both break up with each other, kind of thing. It's kind of mutual. But at the same time, he's like, we've had 5 years to get married and it never happened, and you keep giving excuses. And so when she gets home, they have this big talk, and she's like, yeah, maybe we shouldn't be together. And he was like, yeah, we shouldn't. She was like, what do we do now? And he's like, you leave.
Damn. Bye.
I laughed because he verbatim, he was like, you leave. So like, she had to get all her stuff, move into her best friend's house who's dying. So now she's moving in with Aaron, the guy that she saw 5 years ago. Her best friend is dying. Her boyfriend just broke up with her, and now she's living in her best friend's house. So they've been living together. She's taking care of Bella. Bella's getting worse. She doesn't understand why her mom winds up coming from like Paris to New York, but she spends most of her time at like her hotel and doesn't really visit her. So finally, she's like, during one of her worst episodes, Danny goes to find Bella's mom, and she winds up seeing her at the hotel bar, and she's like, what are you doing here? You should be with your daughter. Like, she doesn't have that much time and you're wasting it here at the bar. I don't understand it. And this was like another like really sad moment because her mom admits to being like, I don't know what to do. She was just like, you're her best
So
friend.
sad.
Yeah, she was like, you're her best friend. You've always been there for her. She was like, you're the reason why we even moved here. And she's like, wait, what? She was like, that one day, the day that her and Bella met was at a park and they hit it off really well. And Danny's mom was talking to Bella's mom and was like, oh, she's going to this school in the fall, whatever. So Bella's mom made sure her daughter went to that same school or got enrolled into that same school, even though that wasn't the school she was originally going to go to, because Bella spoke so highly about Danny that and they had just moved from Europe back to the States. She was like, she didn't have anyone except Danny. So she was just like, I moved her here because you were her only friend at the time and I didn't want her to be alone. So all this time, her mom knew that was the only gift she could give her,
Yeah.
Like I was like,
Yeah, that's really sweet.
so she was,
it doesn't make up for being an absent parent,
no, it
but
doesn't. But
it's
like,
really sweet.
but then you understand it too. So she was just like, and then Danny is just like, no, she wants her mom. She wants you. So she winds up going and spending time with her. And so the next week or so, Danny comes back from work back to Bella's house and she notices none of her stuff is there. And she's just like, did they put it in storage or whatever? So she calls Aaron and she's like, hey, do you know where my stuff is? And he was like, oh, can you meet me at the loft? And it's that apartment that she saw all those months ago. He was like, can you meet me here? And she doesn't want to go. And he was like, Bella, really wanted you to come or whatever. So she goes, and basically Bella decorated and renovated this apartment for Danny because she knew that she saw Danny living there. She was like, this is where you're supposed to be living, and she renovated everything for her.
Wow.
And that was the apartment she left her. She was like, this is your apartment, I want you to have it.
I would be freaking out.
So then she gets this apartment. In the apartment, for some reason, Danny and Aaron kiss. Bella stops her treatment, knowing she's gonna die.
Yikes.
And Bella does die, and that like broke my heart. So she passes away. Her family's, her family plans like this crazy like funeral service that's like so extravagant that they know like this isn't what Bella would have wanted. Yeah. So they decide Aaron, Danny, and their close friends are gonna do a celebration of life for her. And on that night is the night 5 years into the future. And what her premonition saw was her waking up after the celebration of her life in that apartment. The ring that she saw on her finger was actually Bella's engagement ring, but it wasn't on her ring finger. It was like on her middle finger. And Aaron was there because he wound up going back home with her. That night, they wind up sleeping together, but they both wake up realizing that they were only gravitating to each other because of the grief that they were feeling and the loss that they were feeling. There was no like actual romantic feelings there. It was just lost people finding each other. And, you know, they both agree, like, you know, we can be friends, but there's nothing like, you know, he has to move on. Danny gives him the ring, and he was like, oh no, Bella want you to have it. She was like, no, this is yours. So he's like, thank you. And he was like, you know, maybe we could meet up one day for coffee or whatever. And she's like, yeah, maybe. And he leaves. And now she's sitting in her apartment, and she's just like, you know, she doesn't know what she wants to do. So she's like, you know what? I'm just going to go for a walk around the neighborhood. She ends up in a deli, and she's at the counter looking at what's happening. And then the bell chimes ring, and she turns around, and it's the doctor, Bella's doctor, the oncologist. And she was like, oh, doctor, I think his name was Dr. Shaw. And he was just like, oh, call me Mark. I'm so sorry. And then it ends with them sitting for coffee for about an hour. And that's like kind of how it ends.
That's cute. I like that. It's very sad.
It's so, because I'm thinking, oh, 5 years into the future, she sees this guy. It's going to be like this crazy, like, whirlwind romance of like how it leads up to her meeting this guy. And that was not it.
Not it at all.
No. So I was traumatized because I'm thinking I'm getting a love story, and it's not necessarily a love story, but it's a about her friendship to, you know, Bella, and her losing her friend and her going through the grief, and then now trying to navigate her life without her best friend, and also losing some of that like structure she was so used to, you know, like her world was really, really turned upside down, and now she knows like she can't live a life like that because things like this can happen, you know. You can't plan out your life because it may not go the way you think it is. And, you know, Danny really thought this was going to be her life, and, you know, life was like, haha,
just kidding.
But what really hurt me was like some of the dialogue between Danny and Bella, because you could tell they're really, really good friends. And it just made me think about like my best friend, and like, you know, if I was to lose my best friend, how would that feel for me? So like I said, I cried at work, and then as soon as like I finished reading it, it wound up being during my lunch break. I started crying or whatever, and my best friend works at my school. I went into her room.
Jesus.
I need a hug, and I gave her a hug, and she was like, "What is going on?" I was like, "I just read a book during my lunch break, and it made me cry." She was like, "A kid's book?" And I was like,
okay.
"Because you know we work with kids."
Yeah.
I was like, "No, I was on my lunch break reading a book," and she was like, "Okay."
That's hilarious.
But yeah, it was so sad.
That's good. I think I would be very upset thinking I'm reading one book and it turns out to be something totally off, but it sounds really good.
And in the back of the book, it said something along the lines like it's not a love story that you think it is. And I'm just like, I'm thinking it's not a love story that I think it is, because she's gonna steal her best friend's boyfriend, you know?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm thinking. Oh, that's gonna be
Jesus.
No.
Yep.
What is that TikTok? Emotional trauma?
Emotional damage.
Oh yeah, emotional damage. Definitely. And that's why I thought it was so good, because it made me have all these emotions, and like I really didn't know what was happening. Like you think, you know, some stories you can kind of, you know, follow the crumbs and know what's gonna happen, but this one, whoo, it took me by surprise, and I didn't like it.
Oh my God.
I didn't like it.
Well, I'm glad you got it all out of your system.
Yeah. I had to talk about it. And I was explaining this book at work too. And people were like, "You were really into this book, huh?" And I was like, well, it put me on a roller coaster of emotions. I didn't think it would take me on. I'm all thinking lovey-dovey or whatever. No.
That's good. I like that.
It punched me in my heart.
Punch me in my heart.
In my
That's
heart.
funny.
No, but it was good. I really liked
Good.
it. Angel didn't like it. I explained the book to him and he was like, no, Danny's a
Why?
snake in the grass.
Oh my God.
He was like, no, she over here having sex with her best friend.
Oh my God.
He did not
Jesus.
like her. I was like, they were going through grief together, okay? People handle their grief and their trauma differently. And he was like, no.
Wow. That's what he got out of the whole book.
Pretty much.
Jesus. Men.
That's what I got.
Awesome. Well, they're really good, very opposite books.
Yeah, it's very opposite.
Yes,
But hey,
as usual.
some friendship themes, I guess.
Yes, I agree. And the whole like timeline thing. Mine goes into
Yeah.
a different alternate like timeline, and yours saw a vision in the future of what she thought was her life.
Which was interesting how everything fell into place, like how everything did happen. Because when she woke up that day, she said the same thing. She was like, he asked her, "Are you hungry?" She was like, "No." She was like, "Am I a lawyer?" And he's like, "Yeah." Like,
could you imagine? Like it was like the night before, and he was like, "What the fuck is she talking about?"
Yeah. But
Wow.
I think he thought it was because like she was waking up to like the day after the funeral kind of thing, you know, in the midst of all that. So of course she's kind of like her brain
Disoriented and stuff. Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah, it was good.
All right. Awesome. Hey, well, thanks for joining.
Yes.
Glad you could be here. Keep coming back. Let us know if there's anything you want us to talk about, read, whatever. Let us know in the comments on Instagram.
Give us some recommendations. We always look forward to them. I mean, we could
Yes,
add
we
it
do.
to our TBRs. When we do it, we'll try our best.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's all we got.
Yes. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.